I mean, come on. I think your sister looks better than that, at least when she's not being drawn by Aoyama. We open this week with Tanaka taking notice of that one heart-shaped tree that we often see in the show for reasons we learn about later. Until then, he found a certain object that had bloomed last week and was thankfully not shaken off by one of those IRL streamers. He took it back to the Cafe Glitter and showed it off to Uta and Pryun.
これは MOMO 通称桃です
Well, duh.
And since we already got a Domo Motor for the season, it meant another fairy from Kyakuland had managed to escape to their world. Though maybe Emo would have been a better term for this thing, considering how poetry obsessed this little plushie was. Anyway, Tanaka further explained how the heart tree, for whatever reason, acted as a gateway between the worlds.
ハートの木に桃がなるのです
Probably makes good material for a playset if they ever make one for this series. But yeah, after a little pun that CR didn't even bother to try and translate, great job localizers, Pryun managed to figure out that it was her sister Meron, even though it should have been pretty obvious as she was the only other fairy in Kyakia land that she knew was still conscious when she left. Granted, the queen did tell them that the gate only had enough juice to send one of them, but I guess Meron asked nicely enough, so it threw her a bone. With that, they decide to go look for her, which they needed to do ASAP, considering, like her sister, this little menace didn't give two craps about exposing their existence to everyone.
先輩見ました ?SNS でバズってるんですよ空飛ぶウサギって
No. Kokoro, you can clearly see the Mahou Girls hashtag here, so it's probably just Mirai brooming and drinking again. Eventually, the fairy sisters did end up crossing paths, and Meron would have been reunited with her sister, but remember what I said about those IRL streamers earlier?
捕まえたネットで噂の空飛ぶウサギこれで俺も
Hey dude, why don't you try going to the Philippines next? I mean, I hear Vitali's having a great time there. Also, Meron escaped by spinning her head like a top. Yeah, I just want to point out that these plushies apparently don't have any spinal cords. Later, through a flashback, we learned that Meron, for the most part, was actually the more reserved of the sisters, being their typical bookworm. Apparently, not having her sister around to help do up her hair turned her into a bit of a spoiled brat. Though, when not obsessing over her, this little bunny could be quite mature, like when she tried to comfort this girl named Alice.
Get it?
She comforted her through more of her poetry about her sister, which, yeah, we'll talk more about that later. For now, Alice managed to avoid the rabbit hole and was reunited with her mother, while said rabbit became bird food. Meanwhile, Chokine was actually stressing out over their defeat from last week. Yeah, I heard that some people were off-put by them being kind of easily defeated last week, which I do get, though it didn't bother me too much as I didn't expect Chokine to be that much stronger than her lackeys. I would complain if the villains treated their big losses like nothing and the status quo just remained the same, but that wasn't exactly the case here, as the big bad herself caught wind of their failings.
わらわはすべてを見通している
Okay, I actually might have to retract my Doronbo gang joke from last week as killing this lady as the real Doronjo. I mean, come on, just look at that silhouette. I can already hear Tatsunoko filing a lawsuit. Also, it's a little hard to hear through all the synthesizing, but Darkine is actually voiced by Rina Sato, a pretty significant vet in the industry. Currently, she's probably best known for playing Eula Lawrence from Genshin Impact, but her other major roles include Vert from Neptunia, the crystal version of Sailor Mars, and Mikoto Mikasa from the Certain series. And anyone else kind of hoping that she gets a second in command voiced by Satomi Arai? I mean, she's already played two characters in this franchise. But yeah, Evil Angier gave them a power-up for their Makaranda crystals. Back with Meryl, she managed to escape from her feathery captor, but got caught in a tree. Fortunately, Alice followed her and ended up pointing her out to the Precure. With that, they thanked her and told her that they'd take care of her. Being a good sister, Pryun immediately floated up to save her sister, even though fairies seem to have a limit to how much they could fly, based likely on their stamina. That said, yeah, you can kind of guess what the punchline to all of this was going to be.
メロロンたち飛べるメロそうだったプリ
Stop acting so stupid!
After settling down, the Precure were introduced to the little sister fairy, who apparently didn't want to identify as a little sister, even though she constantly referred to Prune with a term that signifies an elder female sibling. Though maybe she wanted to identify herself as something else to Prune, which she showed signs of after learning that she and Uta slept together.
メラメラメロメロロンが燃えている
Why do I have to get Uncle Koshi vibes from this little critter?
寝たの？
なわけねえだろメンヘラ彼女かお前は
Not helping matters was how she reacted to getting a gummy that suggested that she be intertwined with a loved one.
それはきっとあなたと私
How did I end up reviewing two shows with siblings with very questionable relationships and they're from the same company? Anyway, surprisingly enough, the victim of the week wasn't Alice, but rather some rando dude who got excited over weighing an extra overprocessed refreshment from the vending machine. Using Kim and their new crystal that kind of looks like a Saint Quartz from FGO, created the new monster of the week, the Kurai Yaminda, which was basically a Makaranta, but with green shades that actually looks kind of less threatening. Yeah, maybe next time you should try and save up those things and roll for Drake or something. The Precure transformed with their group sequence and finally did their roll call, and yeah, it was fine. I mean, a team huddle is always a good thing, but again, why didn't they just do it last week when that episode was all about teamwork?
I don't know.
Oh well, the fight at least was quite good, and effectively got across the strength of this new monster type. It wasn't exactly a Sakuga fest, and they did repeat this one sequence of the monster firing off from its groins.
Hey, phrasing!
But it was excellently storyboarded with some awesome tracking shots. My personal favorite sequence was this one where Ta had to dive in to save the fairy sisters. In the end, the Cures used the effective combo of all of their special attacks, and Uta tried to defeat the monster with just her finisher, but the evil right vendor actually did something rather unique and didn't stay in his seat like all of his other brethren. Well, okay, this is actually clearly meant to establish that the Cures needed to use their group finisher, which would have a stronger hold on the monster. I actually really appreciate this, as in most other shows, the Cures would just use their group finishers for seemingly no real reason other than to be extra. Here, they've established a valid reason that's also now a required win condition in that they need all three of them to make the monster go boom.
プリキュアハイエモーション
With that, the episode ended with Meron continuing to be concerningly clingy with her sister to the point that she declared the Precure as her rivals and moved in with her. This was a pretty fun introduction to a new fairy character and an effective shakeup for the status quo. So far at least, Meron is a likable enough character, as I actually do find her clinginess to her sister pretty funny. Meanwhile, the introduction of the new monster of the week was actually more effective than the monster trio from last week. This week's writer was Akiko Inoue, who along with her work on Gojuger this season, has written some solid comedy for the most part. And this episode was no exception, as along with some more straightforward gags, she actually remembered that Uta has a tendency to make some witty comebacks, and even included some effective topical jokes like Meron being plucked up by that obnoxious streamer. On that note, I'm liking Meron for the most part, including her obsession with her sister. Obviously, I wouldn't actually support some overly lovey sisters, but like with Nokotan, I do get a good laugh out of it, which is all that really matters. Moreover, since Akiko is more of a tokusatsu writer, I think she knows the importance of building up the antagonists. And while the introduction of the Kurai Yaminda probably wasn't just her idea, she did outline this first battle in a way that made them feel like an actual level up for the villains. This of course supported by the fight looking really good and well directed, with the very smart establishment that they'll always have to use their group finishers against these new monsters. And overall, this was a good introduction to a new character and an even more effective shakeup for the status quo. Hopefully, Prune won't be too much of a bad influence on her sister when it comes to illegal uploads, or else they'll have to do a lot more hairstyling than usual. Thank you for watching after I took a little break to go on a trip to Japan last week. I had a great time and feel fully recharged after getting over my jet lag. So, look forward to Princession Orchestra tomorrow, and until then though, farewell for now my friends, and yeah, I probably shouldn't have used those deer clips when Uncle was around.